Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Rabbi.
We learn Mishna Nedarim, Parak Gimel, Chapter 3, Mishna Gimel, Mishnah 3. Okay, so we'll be going through the Mishnayos and we're going through different examples of the Nedarim that the sages said are automatically not considered effective Nedarim, based on the fact that we know that there was a lack of intent involved in them. So the next example goes like this. Nidrei anosim, the Nedarim of unavoidable circumstances. Every time you use the word ones in Mishnayos, Gemara, it means some kind of unavoidable circumstance, meaning you didn't plan it, and it was just unavoidable. It was beyond your control. All right, so Nedarim of unavoidable circumstances. What's the example of that? Now, listen careful. Hidirei chaveru sheyachal etzlai. His friend made a vow on him to make it that he should eat by him. So what that means is, Reuben said to Shimon, okay, I'm reading here from the example they bring down here. Reuben says to Shimon, remember the characters, my possessions shall be prohibited to you if you do not eat with me. Right? That's how he's trying to persuade him to join in his, to eat with him. All right, so Shimon agrees, okay? And what happens is, v'chalahu, a b'nai, a shikvainar. Or, so Shimon is supposed to come joining Reuven. And again, Reuven said, if you don't join me with my meal, everything of mine will become forbidden to you. All right, and what happens? Shimon gets sick. He got sick, he couldn't make it. A shikhala b'nai. Or his son became ill, and he needs to take care of his son. A shikvainar. Or a river held him back. All the time there was this flood, and he couldn't make it. All right? So, Reuben said to Shimon, if you don't join me for the meal, all my things, I'm making a nether on all my things that should be forbidden to you. Well, he didn't show, right? Yeah. However, in all these cases, why didn't he show? Because what we call an ones, unavoidable circumstances. Hare elu nidrei anosim. This is your example of vows of unavoidable circumstances, which means to explain that when a person makes a neder dependent on a certain condition, he does not have in mind that the prohibition will take effect even if the condition takes place unavoidably, like in our case. The condition was, if you don't eat with me. Now that was unavoidable from his point. He couldn't help it. He does not mean when he first made the neder that the prohibitions take effect if the condition takes place unavoidably. He did not have to say this explicitly because it is clear that this was his intent. I mean, it's going back to what we mentioned before, the concept of Devarim Shabalev Einam Devarim. Things in your heart don't count. Well, over here, he didn't say that this was the only reason that he only based his neder on, under these circumstances, but it's understood. It's understood that when a person makes a neder based on a condition, if the condition becomes fulfilled, but because beyond the person's circumstances of being able to, so to speak, not fulfill it, as in our case, he never meant to make the neder under those circumstances. And therefore the Mishnah says, elu nidrei anosin, these are vows of unavoidable circumstances and are considered, completely ineffective vows. Now, there's one last thing here that we need to point out, which is very interesting. Now, the way that the Mishnah depicts the case is that Reuven is trying to convince Shimon to eat by him. So what does he do? He makes a vow. And he says that my things are going to become forbidden to you unless you come to the meal. Now, if you recall, we previously had an example, again, of one of these Nedarim that don't count, and that was called Nidrei Ziruzin, vows of persuasion. And the case of the vow of persuasion was exactly this case. Yeah. A person says, my loaf for bread shall be forbidden like a konim well, he says to me, if I guess it doesn't make a difference. If I lower, wait a second, looking for the case. I had a case here.
So Reuben saying,
Hold on. Just remember if they had the case. I thought they had the case here about eating. Oh, yeah. That was Rebbe ben Yaakov. Rebbe ben Yaakov had a case where the person says, so it's interesting, because in this case, Rebbe ben Yaakov has such a case, where a person Basically, the case that one person invited another person to eat with him, but the latter refused. And the inviter then made a neder saying that he forbids the other person to have any benefit from him if he does not eat with him. Here, too, it is clear that the inviter did not actually intend the neder to take effect, and he was using it only as a means of persuasion. Okay, that's not serious. We understand he's not serious. It's just a way of getting the guy to agree. Okay, which means if the guy doesn't agree, it's not a neder. Okay. Now it's interesting that this is Rebbe ben Yaakov's opinion, and that is the halacha, I believe. Yeah, that is the halacha. Well, the point is that our Mishnah seems to be that exact same case. You're trying to persuade the guy to join you for a meal, and that was already discussed previously. You had the Tanakama saying it is a vow. The Rebbe ben Yaakov says it's not a vow, and this case seems to be exactly that same thing. So why are we creating this new category of Nedarim of unavoidable circumstances if that case is exactly the same case as the vow of persuasion? So therefore, the explanation given here, they bring down from the Tosei Santiv, is the following. The case is a little bit more complicated than the way the Mishnah depicts it. And that is, Reuben was not trying to persuade Shimon to join him. That really wasn't the goal here. Why? Because the case is like this. Rather, Shimon had also been invited to eat elsewhere, but he preferred to eat with Reuven. Levi invited him too. Okay. He didn't want to eat with Levi. Okay, so what did he do? He therefore asked Reuven to make the neder so that he would have an excuse to reject the other invitation. You get that? It was so he wasn't like Reuven trying to convince Shimon. Shimon said to Reuven, "Can you do me a favor? Make a neder. That if I don't join you for the meal, all your stuff he's going to forbid it to me." Now he's got an excuse to tell Levi he can't eat by him. Yeah. All right, but then unavoidable circumstances bring about that he couldn't make it. Right. So in essence, the neder itself was made seriously, in the sense that it wasn't just persuasion and he never meant it. He meant it. It was a real neder. The point is, though, that we understand that when a neder is made with a condition, and the condition wasn't fulfilled it was unavoidably fulfilled, that we know that that's another reason that we say that a person never meant to make a neder under those circumstances. So it's not like the neder was made like the neder persuasion where he never means it to begin with. He meant it to begin with. And it was a real neder. The point is, though, it was a neder based on the condition. The condition was not fulfilled because of unavoidable circumstances. And the person making a neder basically has in mind, not that he has to think it, but we understand it's automatic in the back of a person's mind, that if it comes out that this neder is fulfilled because of unavoidable circumstances, I never meant to make the neder. And because of that, we say that this is a third example of the nedarim that when a person makes, we say that the person didn't really have the intent for it to come into effect. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Good Shua Tov.
Are we encouraging people to make nedarim?
No, we're not.